All right, here with Tom Mulhern of the Wisconsin State Journal. Tom, your impressions of this small class, but with some pretty highly rated players for the Badgers.
Yeah, I think there's a little frustration because they started off so strongly and with such a large group of really quality players, and that they weren't quite able to close with as much momentum as they started with. But having said that, there is some quality in this class, and as you said, only 12 scholarship guys, 7 walk-ons. It's an extremely small class. Having 3 guys here early as enrolled already and going to take part in the spring, I think is big. And one of those, Dan Volz, has a chance, I think, to contribute right away, and it's in an area of great need. So the 2 areas of need really were offensive line. They got 3 guys, and Bielema held out hope that there might be another guy added somewhere. We'll see if that happens. Lost out on some big-name guys and some guys who changed their minds late, so that hurt a little bit. But still, a pretty good group of 3 guys, and they needed to really improve in that area as well. And then they got some depth in the defensive backfield. And just talking to the defensive backs coach, Chris Ash, the defensive coordinator, you can never have too many cornerbacks, and that's the hope, is that they got a couple more cornerbacks in this group as well.
You mentioned Volz. Any other names of guys that aren't here yet that jump out at you? The resumes is obviously what you're working off at this point.
Yeah, and DJ Singleton is one of those guys, and they did lose out on a big safety recruit late on Monday. Demetrius Cox ended up going to Michigan State. So I think there's a need at safety right now, and I think DJ Singleton from out east in Jersey City is a guy who's going to physically 6'2", 195 pounds, really good in run support, maybe not as good in the pass game right now, and has a chance to play, I think, and could grow into a linebacker too. That's the other question, is about what position he winds up at. So I think he's another guy, and then everybody's going to be talking about the quarterback, Bart Houston. Is he going to be ready to play right away? And I don't think they'll know for sure until he gets in here. I don't think they're counting on that, but he'll come in and have a chance to show what he can do in camp.
On the quarterback front, I thought it was interesting that Brett brought up and really drew a lot of focus to Joel Stave, the walk-on from last year. I mean, did you read anything into that?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think there's some hints there, and I've heard that from some other guys as well. I don't think you can overlook him by any stretch of the imagination just because he's a walk-on. And he's a guy who was really impressive in limited action in the spring a year ago, and really showed some good things athletically and arm strength and mobility. So I think it's a new coaching staff, a new coordinator in Matt Canada, and a new quarterbacks coach in Canada, and so I think everybody's on an open page, open slate right now, and he'll have a chance to make his impression just like anybody else.
Walk-on from this year's class that his name got repeated twice, was Jack Russell, the kicker from Wanakee, especially with Alec Lerner leaving the program, and that leaves Kyle French here, correct, for those two to kind of duke it out.
And yeah, and I think we saw the importance of kickoffs this past season as well, and they struggled, and Russell's a guy with a strong leg and could, immediately win the kickoff job, I would think. And at least, I was impressed with French and how he improved from his first year to his second year on field goals. And I think French is going to be pretty good in that field goal job, but I do think they need a kickoff guy, and I think Russell would be in the mix for that.
Stepping back a little bit, I mean, there's so much turnover in this staff, and as Brett talked about a lot, it's really a whirlwind month when you throw in recruiting on top of that. What's your impressions of where they're at? Is this a rebirth of Wisconsin football, as Brett pointed out in his press conference?
Well, I think he's trying to put a happy face on it, and I think that's naturally what you have to do. Yeah, I can't tell you how many people I've heard from that have asked what's going on in Wisconsin with 6 coaches leaving, and is there some ulterior motive because of that? Is Brett Bielema a hard guy to work for or anything like that? I've got no indication of that. Talking to a couple of the holdovers today, they assured me obviously that's not the case with them. This is a good place to work. They're happy to be here. Chris Ash told me he's as happy as he's ever been at any place. So I do think there are some extraordinary circumstances that kind of combined with Paul Chris leaving and the loyalty some people felt towards him, and some other guys had opportunities to be closer to family and things like that. I think if you look at it from the outside, you see 6 guys leaving. That's an extraordinary event. It doesn't happen very often. But if you break it down individually, I don't think there's anything that fans need to panic over.
Thanks, Tom.